Yes, it's me. It's not an illusion. I'm really back. Y'all, there's a hard truth about politics that a lot of people don't want to say out loud. Elections are not just about policy. They're not even always about qualifications. They're about coalitions and branding. Branding wins elections because once a certain narrative about a candidate gets burned into the public's memory, whether or not it's true, it becomes incredibly difficult to undo. Donald Trump understood that long before he ever ran for president. And the Democratic primary in Texas just reminded us why that matters. Because that race says something bigger about what the Democrats have to do if they want to win in the future. And if Democrats don't start having some honest conversations about it, we're going to keep losing races we should be winning. Today, we're talking about this Democratic Senate primary that happened last week in Texas and why Jasmine Crockett lost. And later, we're going to confront a question that Democrats really don't like asking, whether bias inside our own coalition played a role in this race. But remember, this isn't just about one campaign. It's about something deeper. How candidates get branded in politics, how coalitions get built or fall apart, and why some narratives stick even when the facts say otherwise. Because once a political story takes hold, it's very hard to rewrite it. It's your boy Trey, and welcome back to Pragmotiv News. So if you've been watching American politics for the past decade, you've already seen the clearest example of this. Donald Trump, the head lizard in charge. Let me stop. Trump didn't just run for office. He built a brand. Before politics, he turned himself into a television character on The Apprentice. A decisive billionaire boss. A symbol of success. But the reality was a lot messier. Trump Airlines failed. Trump casinos went bankrupt. Trump University collapsed. But the brand survived. Why? Because Trump understood something many politicians still underestimate. Perception beats reality. Not just in politics, but in society, period. I mean, I could pull up to a club tomorrow in a Lamborghini. Now, let's say that Lamborghini is rented. Nobody at the club knows that. All they see is the car. And suddenly people start thinking, oh, this guy must be rich. Not because they verified anything, but because the image told them a story. That's branding. Think about it. Trump has gold, and yeah, I use quotes because I don't think it's real. Gold everywhere. He has gold escalator, a gold penthouse, gold rooms at Mar-a-Lago. Even the White House has now been godified with his obsession with perception. It's all branding. And when voters buy the brand, the details stop mattering as much. Now keep that idea in mind, because the branding dynamic showed up very clearly in the Texas Senate race. Jasmine Crockett entered the race with a lot of strengths. She's a civil rights attorney, a sitting member of Congress, and one of the sharpest communicators in Washington. She's fearless about doing what's right, even when it's not the trend. And she does it with straight up swag and gives zero, you know what I mean. Anyone who has watched her question these Republicans in these hearings knows she's quick, prepared, and very effective. But during the campaign, a different narrative started circulating. Some commentators framed her as too aggressive, too confrontational, too controversial. And sometimes the messaging slipped into stereotypes about tone and style. Now let's be honest here. Let's keep it 100. When Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene, when they get on TV and they spew that vile shit that they be saying, like Exhibit A right here.
I don't know what the motivation is. Do you have evidence of that?
Well, they said on the bullets, there was fascist commentary on the bullets, pro-transgender commentary on the bullets. Don't give me the bullshit
that could very well be so, but we don't know if that's true right now.
Was a transgender, was a tranny. Come on, let's be honest about this.
That's disrespectful.
Republicans vote to table.
I really don't care because there are a lot of trannies out there that want me dead because I'm a rape victim who wants privacy in the bathroom. The trannies can F off. I don't care. They want to kill me, and they're not going to.
How would you like it if someone called you out of your name? If they called you a B word or any of that, how would you feel?
These people are calling me a cunt, and all these awful names online. Are you kidding me? Come on. They are the most egregious, most vile, violent people on earth. They are mentally ill and should be in a straitjacket with a hard steel lock on it.
I think the
How'd you do that? How did you get major press coverage on this issue? And how did you get kids? Why do you use kids? Why kids? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. Do you know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say. No words. So I'm walking. He's got nothing to say. Sad.
Cameron, why you threw this one in there?
Because the bitch is crazy.
What in the hell is she doing?
Marjorie. You know that's a cardboard cutout, right?
Oh my God. All right, so Cameron threw me for a loop with that one. But y'all get the point. When they do that shit, the media calls it passionate and fighting for the issues they were sent to Washington to fight for. But when Jasmine Crockett responds to a racially insensitive comment from Marjorie Taylor Greene herself, the media paints her as an angry black woman. Take a look.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about. I
think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
your
please
history.
regain
That's beneath
order
even
of your
you.
committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack
meeting will
the
suspend.
physical
Meeting will
appearance of another
suspend.
person?
Are your
Move
feelings hurt?
her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl?
We're gonna,
I don't think
we are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down.
I
Thank you very
second that motion.
So who will have to pay us? Okay. Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to
recognizes
apologize. No.
Mr.
She
Perry.
needs to apologize.
Okay, hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the minority.
pretty self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're not-
out of order.
you don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd
the.
like to
I
strike
move to
those
strike the
words
lady's
as well.
words.
move to
I would
strike-
like
Move to
order
strike the
as
lady's
well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the words.
There's another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's
control.
the correct apology. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words, but I'm not apologizing.
Without objection. Without
Not
objection.
apologizing.
21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's
It's me.
Ms. Crockett?
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those
I
words.
don't think that's a
Hold on.
I'm
parliament.
trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to
I
strike
had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just said
You
that.
just voted to do
Y'all did
it.
it first, so you don't want to talk about
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get
Okay.
clarification.
Look at calm down. Calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like to
y'all
get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying
Hey,
to
Ms.
get
Crockett,
clarification.
you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games.
Crockett.
I can't hear you with your
And
yelling.
You don't want
calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can
no,
you please calm
don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all
Please
talk
calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
out
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a
Mr.
problem.
Chairman, Mr.
Order.
Chairman.
All right,
Sorry.
Chair.
I don't know why
Okay.
you're
Order.
So the first thing you want to tell the black woman to do is calm down. But the white woman can grope the sitting president cardboard cutout in public and, oh, that's funny. This is America. So this branding mattered, y'all. Because once a political narrative starts circulating, it spreads fast. A small spark turning into a massive wildfire. That's how political narratives work. One tweet, one viral TikTok, one headline, and suddenly A candidate like Jasmine is being defined by a label they didn't choose or one that isn't even true. There's an old saying. It goes something like, a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth puts its shoes on. In the social media era, that's multiplied times 1,000,000, literally. But to understand why this Texas race matters, we need to zoom out for a second, because Jasmine Crockett's campaign didn't happen in a vacuum. The modern story really begins with Shirley Chisholm in 1972. She became the first Black woman to run for president of the United States. Her campaign slogan was simple: unbought and unbossed. Chisholm knew the odds were stacked against her, but her campaign did something incredibly important. It expanded the political imagination of the country. After Chisholm, more Black women ran for major offices. Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois became the first Black woman elected to the United States Senate in 1992. And of course, Kamala Harris would eventually run for Senate and win, then become the first woman to be vice president of the United States. Leaders like Stacey Abrams built on Shirley Chisholm's hard work, some by running for state offices themselves, and in Abrams' case, by leading a massive voter mobilization effort that flipped deep red Georgia blue. These campaigns proved that Black women could be powerful political leaders on the national stage, but they also revealed something else, that statewide elections are incredibly difficult, especially in states where the electorate is deeply polarized and in some cases unmotivated. Which brings us to the three campaigns that reveal the modern political dilemma. I'm specifically talking about Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Kamala Harris nationally, and Jasmine Crockett in Texas. Each campaign relied on a similar strategy, building a coalition around Black voters, young voters, urban voters, multiracial alliances. And that strategy can absolutely work. In fact, it's been one of the most powerful political developments of the past 20 years. But statewide elections require something else too. Outreach beyond the base, suburban voters, independent voters, Hispanic voters, especially in states like Texas. And that's where things get complicated. Because winning modern elections is like balancing on a tightrope. Appeal too much to your crossover voters, and your base might feel uninspired and question your loyalty to the cause. Focus too much on energizing your base, and moderate voters get nervous. Finding that balance is one of the hardest strategic decisions in politics. And that tension showed up very clearly in this Crockett versus Talarico primary. This race represented two different strategic visions inside the Democratic Party. One vision said you win Texas by expanding turnout, mobilizing voters who historically haven't participated, like young voters and urban voters, communities of color. And the other vision said that you win Texas by reassuring moderates and independents, by making the campaign feel safe for crossover voters. James Talarico's campaign leaned more heavily into that second strategy, and many Democratic commentators and influencers supported him for that reason, among others. But it seems that Talarico and his campaign, at least according to some reporting, did some of both of the strategies. Take a look.
Before, the point I'm making is when you lose all of these counties in the rest of the state, you're not going to win the election because all of those votes matter. She's down 154,000 votes in the state. She's down 154,000. You cannot lose with that particular margin. So now what folks should be asking is, what were the difference between the two campaigns? What was the infrastructure? What were they doing? What was the GOTV efforts? Did you see signs and posters? What did you see? What was the investment? What was going on? Chuck Rocha, Democratic consultant who was with the Talarico campaign, dropped this video. Listen to what he said, what their strategy was.
Good morning, everybody. What a crazy election night. You know, I've been in war rooms for 30 years on election night, watching results come in, and then last night was another crazy one. Before I head to the airport to get back to D.C., I need to tell you how this happened. It starts with the candidate. James Talarico is a special candidate, and I take nothing away from Jasmine Crockett, who ran an incredible race. You know, hat tip to her and her team. Hat tip to her and her team this morning. I love to see the unity in her coming together. We're going to win in November. We're going to beat the Republicans. But James Talarico ran the right kind of race at the right time. He also had an amazing staff. Seth, his manager, assembled a great crew, and they did an outstanding job. Gina Hinojosa, that's the Talarico Gina Hinojosa, and JT on the press team, that whole crew just worked day and night, and me getting to spend some time with them and see the energy on the ground really made some difference. But how did he win? He won because he showed up in communities. He ran advertising in those communities. He had an amazing field team with 28,000 volunteers, over 600 community events in just 8 weeks. They sent over 4 million peer-to-peer texts, like grassroots organizing combined with paid advertising in digital, TV, radio, around sporting events, and a robust Latino advertising campaign in Spanish, in English, but a lot of Spanish advertising, a lot of advertising in the Valley. I'm going to write more about this later, but there's a reason why James won last night, because he had the full effect of a great team, a great message. He's a great candidate, and he assembled the right folks to actually get it done. There's going to be a lot written about the Latino vote and the strength of the Latino vote, and are Latinos moving back to the left? Well, last night proved one thing for damn sure. They will move back for James Talarico if you show up and give them a hopeful message. I'll talk to y'all in a little bit. I'm going to go get on an airplane. I love you all. Thank you for all the love and all the text and all the things this morning. I'm super excited. Gosh damn, it never gets old. Y'all be good.
But even though the Talarico campaign was doing what it needed to do behind the scenes, not all of the support it was garnering from some of the popular mainstream liberal commentators was fair. Now, full disclosure, I'm not alleging that the Talarico campaign in any way had anything to do with these false narratives being planted. Frankly, what I am saying is that the biases of these creators were showing. And that is what bothers me. You see, when you do what we do here, you take on a tremendous responsibility. Everyone is human. We all have opinions, and we all have biases. But when you're in a position of influence, your responsibility is to check those biases, report the facts, and be fair to everyone involved, not just push a narrative that benefits the candidate that you prefer. Now, supporting a candidate in a primary is completely normal. That's politics. But you need to make sure your support for that candidate is rooted in something substantive and not something superficial, or worse, something stereotypical. So I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. Some of these criticisms aimed at Jasmine Crockett during this race weren't grounded in fact. Certain claims that circulated widely online were flat out lies, like her taking AIPAC money. In fact, that entire situation turned into a full-blown scandal on social media. And the deeper you look into it, the crazier it gets. It eventually involved a public back and forth between two major progressive influencers and the NAACP. So I'm doing a full breakdown of that situation in this week's Pragmotiv Plus bonus episode. So if you want that full story, you got to head on over to pragmotivplus.com. That episode is going to drop this Friday, March 13th. But getting back to this, once those narratives begin shaping the conversation, they start shaping perceptions of electability. And once that happens, facts almost stop mattering. Even when the underlying facts prove those narratives wrong, the correction rarely travels as far as the original lie. We saw that play out during the 2024 presidential campaign. False stories spreading across TikTok about Kamala Harris. Attack ads flooding the airwaves. And it was about Trump falsely accusing Kamala Harris of proposing the use of federal money for transgender surgeries. When in reality, her position was about medically necessary care for people in federal prison, something that had already been federal policy since Donald Trump himself was president the first time. So in other words, he accused her of doing the very thing his own administration had already done. But did that stop the ads? No. They ran tens of thousands of times in swing states, and they became a central part of Trump's closing campaign message. And in the end, the hypocrisy barely got reported. And most people never went looking for the details. Because the truth is, most of us just believe whatever shows up on our timelines. our TVs, and our friends' feeds, especially when it comes from someone who says they keep up with that stuff. This is how branding works. It actually relies on the assumption that you won't pull back the curtain and look at the details. Case in point, at the same time they were running those ads, you had the Trump campaign staging a photo shoot with Trump and a bunch of groceries in an effort to somehow make Trump be the guy who could lower grocery prices after his failed COVID response made them rise in the first place. And by the way, he's at it again. Those prices might be going up soon, very soon. Gas prices have already spiked across the country this past weekend because of his war with Iran. When gas goes up, the price of everything else follows because all of our goods have to get transported to their destination somehow, right? You think the corporations are going to eat those costs? Remember, everything is connected. But that's a topic for another video. So bringing this back to this election, there's another question we need to confront, and it's not a comfortable one. Could Texas voters have been hesitant about being represented by a black woman? Bias exists in every political coalition, even progressive ones. Sometimes it shows up in explicit ways. Other times it appears through subtle signals. Electability arguments, tone criticism, media framing. Now, to be clear, race alone does not explain the outcome of this primary, but ignoring the role that bias can play in political perception would also be unrealistic. Because American political history shows that representation battles are rarely smooth. Which brings us to the real question headed into November. Texas hasn't elected a Democrat statewide in more than 30 years. But the state is changing. And I can feel that when I'm over there. Texas is right next door to me, and I'm over there often enough to see it happening in real time. The state has had rapid population growth, younger voters entering the electorate, and increasing diversity. All of those factors are slowly reshaping the political map. But elections ultimately come down to turnout. And that means the biggest question moving forward is this. Will the voters who supported Jasmine Crockett feel motivated to show up for James Talarico? Well, in true Jasmine fashion, she didn't waste any time letting her supporters know that she's all in for James Talarico and needs them to be too. She's a team player who consistently puts others before herself. Her statement reads, quote, "This morning, I called James and congratulated him on becoming the Senate nominee. Texas is primed to turn blue, and we must remain united because this is bigger than any one person. This is about the future of all 30 million Texans and getting America back on track. With the primary behind us, Democrats must rally around our nominees and win. I'm committed to doing my part and will continue working to elect Democrats up and down the ballot." Coalition politics only works when every group in the coalition feels respected and included. If parts of that coalition feel ignored, turnout drops. And when turnout drops, you don't win elections. So here's my message to my neighbors in Texas, especially Texans who supported Jasmine Crockett. Please go vote. Vote for James Talarico. But remember something important. Voting is not the end of your political power. It's actually just the beginning. Hold your elected officials accountable. Organize with your communities, send them your priorities, and follow up with them. Demand the results that you deserve. And if those priorities are ignored, start preparing to replace them in the next election cycle. That's how democracy works. From what I've seen so far, James Talarico appears willing to work across different parts of the coalition. And he's definitely a significant improvement over John Cornyn, who's been there since 2002. But whether Texas flips will depend on whether the Democrats can keep this coalition together. And honestly, the coalition problem Democrats are facing in Texas isn't unique to Texas. It's showing up in elections all across the country right now. Time will only tell. But for the sake of the country, I hope we can figure it out before November. That's it for today, y'all. You can follow me at Trey Williams on Substack, and we would appreciate it if you would follow the show as well across all the platforms. Links down in the description. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.